Hello, Solomon here. I'm back with another video for my breakdown series on Tech 1 frigate fits for low-sec and faction warfare solo PvP. I'm flying the Tormentor this time with beam lasers. It was my first time in a shiny Amarr ship and first time using laser weapons. I have to say I really loved it. So much DPS and range can be pumped out of those streaks of light. There's also something to be said about getting into a new ship and discovering its capabilities. I flew several different Tormentor fits over the past month, all beam fit with an Afterburner, scram and web, but each one tweaked with different rigs and low slots. Each performed brilliantly and I had a lot of fun flying each fit. I'm not going into all the fits here. For this video I'll be showing the fit for max DPS and speed. You can look up my Zkill board to find the others. I'm also going to try and make this quick if I can. I may gloss over some bits and pieces, so I would encourage you to watch my previous videos which go over some of the mechanics of piloting based on fit and take you through out of game tools like EFT in more depth. Let's get straight to it. Here's the fit. 3 small focused Tech 2 beam lasers for the highs. Afterburner 2 compact scram and web in the mids. In the lows an IFFA is that? Compact DCU. Tech 2 heatsink for extra DPS, an Ancil armor rep and the important mod for this fit, a Tech 2 overdrive injector system. This gives the ship a 12.5 increase in speed. For the rigs I have a small energy burst rater designed to increase the ship's energy turret's rate of fire and a small energy collision accelerator which increases the damage output of a ship's energy turrets. Basically these two rigs add extra DPS to my lasers by increasing their rate of fire and damage output. The Tormentor has 20 meters cubed of drone space, enough for 4 light drones, and can field 2 in space at any one time. I carry a pair of hobgoblins and acolytes. The acolytes are only there if I encounter a kiting ship, as they are one of the fastest drones and can deliver reasonable DPS. Where this fit falls down in tank, it makes up for DPS and speed. With my skills, this ship can dish out over 240 DPS and have a top speed of just over 1600 meters per second. Let's take a quick look at the fit in EFT. If you're not familiar with EFT, it stands for E-Fitting Tool and is a great out-of-game tool for testing ship fits and sizing them up against potential opponents. I go over EFT in more detail in my previous Atron videos, so if you're new to EFT, I recommend watching those. First thing to notice is the DPS, 241 with guns overheated and drones out, and a great volley damage. Next, check the speed, 1600 meters per second with an overheated Afterburner. The Tormentor is one of the slower frigates in the game. Fitting the overdrive injector system allows this ship to reach speeds approaching the fastest frigates in the game. Its main purpose here is to help your range control, not only in keeping your ship at its optimal range for a fight, but also holding off ships that are trying to get into a tight orbit around you. Lasers have terrible tracking, and a fast frigate or a dual web fit opponent that gets into a tight orbit around you will wreck you, as you just won't apply any damage. Having this boost to your speed will allow you to manage those kinds of engagements, typically by starting the fight at a greater range, so your opponent has a greater distance to cover before settling into a tight orbit, and will take longer to get into that orbit as you're travelling fast away from him. In general, however, to fly this ship you want to set your keep it range to 7500 to 8000 meters and use Navy multi-frequency crystals. However, this is EVE and you will sometimes need to adjust this tactic depending on your opponent. Last thing I want to mention about the fit is the ammo I carry. Energy turrets use laser crystals for ammunition. There are quite a few choices. Each type of laser crystal will affect your optimal range and damage output. After a number of fights, I learned that I only really used a few specific types. I carry 4 different types of faction crystals: Imperial, Navy multi-frequency, Gamma, X-ray and Standard, and both types of Tech 2 laser crystals, Aurora and Gleam. Let's look very quickly at each. As I swap between the crystals and EFT here, pay attention to the optimal range of my guns and the DPS. Imperial Navy multi-frequency gets 8 km optimal range and 241 DPS. Imperial Navy Gamma, 10k optimal, 224 DPS. Imperial Navy X-ray has 12 km optimal and 207 DPS. Imperial Navy Standard, 16 km optimal, 174 DPS. Now the Tech 2 variants. Gleam, 4 km optimal, 244 DPS. Aurora, look at that, 29 km optimal and 156 DPS. I hardly ever used Gleam, to be honest. It does have a 25% tracking bonus which can be good for close-up targets, but my experience was that if you're getting orbited tight in this ship, even a 25% tracking bonus doesn't help. Aurora suffers from a 75% penalty to tracking, but that range, 156 DPS at 30 kilometers, is pretty good in my book. Very useful for starting some tough fights at long range to soften up your opponent a bit before getting in close using the higher DPS crystals. Let's get into some fights. The first couple of fights I show here will demonstrate the usefulness of carrying a set of Aurora crystals. I see a Rifter and a Thrasher on narrow D-scan at a novice plex. I'm thinking to myself that the Rifter is most likely inside the plex and that the Thrasher is sitting on the acceleration gate into the plex. Being a novice plex, destroyer class ships like the Thrasher cannot enter. My plan here is to warp to the gate at 30 kilometers and start having some fun with the Thrasher, which I hope is sitting at 0 on the gate. I load Aurora and head to the gate. Sure enough, he's sitting on the gate, not moving. I start shooting him from 30 kilometers. As you can see, I'm getting some reasonable damage on him from this range. Surprisingly, I see he's started to burn towards me, and I'm thinking I better play this right, because if he gets close he's going to wreck me. As he hits 14 kilometers from me, I turn on my overheated web, which has a 14 kilometer range, but it's a misclick. My web doesn't activate and I don't notice. I must have tried to web him a little too early. This mistake almost kills me, as you'll see. The Aurora continues to deliver its DPS, and by the time he is within his fall off range, I have him in hull. He closes the gap and his guns really start hitting. I was genuinely surprised at him taking this fight all the way. I wasn't expecting him to come at me like this, and it threw me a little if I'm honest. I just made it out alive. It was a nice kill, and a good demonstration of the reach of Aurora crystals. Up next is a fight with a Navy Comet. Faction frigates are generally tough nuts to crack with a basic T1 frigate, but it is possible, and all the more satisfying if you get the kill. With this fit versus a faction frigate, I tend to pull range from the beacon. The strategy here is to land some damaging blows at range using Aurora before he gets the opportunity to do the same. The Comet lands and I've pulled some 15 kilometers from the beacon. I lock him up while continuing to burn away in the same direction, and my Aurora beams go to work. I change the keep at range distance to 20 kilometers for now. He continues to burn at me at speed and he's committed himself to the fight. This is good. I'm watching his distance all the time. At around 13 kilometers, I switch the keep at range distance to 7,500 meters, stop the lasers and swap in the Navy multi-frequency crystals for that sweet 241 DPS, reactivate the lasers and punch the scram and web. I have him now, and the DPS and volleys from the lasers rip through his dual reps and hull fairly quickly. This was a blaster fit Comet, and I played it right in this case, allowing my long range ammo to soften him up before heading in for the kill. Fighting a Rail Comet I think would be tougher, as they will start hitting you from further out, but I would still take on a Rail Comet in this fit. Firetail on short range D-scan. He's coming in for a fight. I've pulled range again and loaded Aurora to start the fight. This Firetail turns out to be a dual prop autocannon fit. He kicks on his micro warp drive and quickly closes the gap. I web him and shut off his micro warp drive with the scram, and then switch to Navy multi-frequency. I hit the keep at range command, but like a dumbass I have forgotten to reset it to 7,500 meters. I quickly realise and compensate. Notice I'm trying to activate the overheat on the scram here and turn it on. It just won't work. He has his afterburner on now and he moves out of scram range. I'm cursing my bugged scram module at this stage because it looks like he's running. But all of a sudden he comes back within range and my scram decides to work. Good fight. Faction frigate down. I see an Atron on narrow D-scan at a faction warfare complex. Not knowing his fit, I'm taking a risk here. The Atron is one of the fastest frigates in the game. If he's blaster fit and ready for me, he'll immediately aim for a tight orbit on me and I'll be dead. My overdrive module helps a lot in deciding this engagement. Coupled with my Tech 2 Afterburner, it allows me to reach speeds comparable to the Atron. Not as fast, but close. I find him sitting 20 kilometers off gate. I'm now thinking scram kiting rail Atron of some kind. Turns out he was fit with 125mm rails and hull tanked. Looking at his velocity, we can tell he is micro warp drive fit. My first volley with Navy multi-frequency surprisingly makes good contact and takes out his shields. I set out to chase him, knowing it's probably a futile attempt. With my Navy multi-frequency now not reaching their target, I swap to Aurora, which soon goes to town. Almost had him webbed there as he came into range, but I was too slow. He comes back in and I'm ready for him. Webbed. Scrammed. I swap back to multi-frequency. And he explodes. Enjoyed that fight, and again demonstrates the versatility of lasers. Up next is a brawl with the dual rep blaster Incursus. Lots of hit points to chew through against this fit. A good dual rep Incursus can repair upwards of 160 DPS per second. I am faster than him, so maintaining range control isn't a problem. I have my keep it range set at 7,500 meters. At this range I'll be applying my full laser DPS while staying within high fall off range of his guns, meaning much less incoming DPS. As frigate battles go, this will be a fairly lengthy one. I'll be keeping an eye on the heat of my guns in this fight so as not to burn them out. My first few volleys smack real hard. Within 6 seconds he's bleeding hull. His dual reps kick in and it's a DPS race from here on in really. I'm out of rep charges, but I let my repper keep running. It's going to kill my cap, but it's all or nothing at this stage. No more cap to run the repper. This is close. A final volley from the lasers clinches the deal. Great fight. I was sweating that one at the end. His mate arrives in a worm, and I moonwalk out. This next fight is against a dual web Amarr Kestrel. I flew one of these in my last video and killed a few Tormentors with it, and now the tables have turned and it's me and the Tormentor. Despite the Kestrel being one of the slowest frigates in the game, the worry here is his dual webs. He will slow me down a lot, and if he catches me and gets into a tight orbit, I'm dead. I want to kill him as quickly as possible, yet maintain enough range so that he has to work to catch me. As soon as he appears in the overview, I start spamming the keep it range command. I have it set to 7,500 meters and have overheated my afterburner. Remember, I'm pretty fast with the overdrive injector fitted, and by the time his webs apply, I'm already at range. The overdrive injector shows its strength in this fight. His velocity is just over 100 meters per second faster than mine. He's got his work cut out to catch me now. He was definitely chasing me, but just wasn't able to catch me and establish an orbit quick enough in this fight. Navy Slicer on D-scan. Almost always micro warp drive kite fit, and with a 25% bonus to small energy turret damage, they can dish out some substantial pain. As I always do with kiting ships coming in to fight me, I have overheated the prop mod, scram and web to give me max speed and scram range to catch him before he can micro warp drive out of range. If that happens, I'm dead. As soon as I see him on the overview, I spam approach and kick on my afterburner. Getting him locked and scrammed as soon as possible is a must. Got him. Holy crap, his first volley strips my shields and I just get my reps on in time as my armour disappears. This guy's hitting hard. It's all over in 20 seconds. Getting my armour repper on in time was crucial there, I think. Good fight. The Tristan is a very popular frigate due to its fitting versatility. You never really know what you're going to get when you're fighting one. Nearly every Tristan fight I approach, I assume a kiting drone boat, as it is these I see most often. Same approach as with the Slicer before. Overheat prop mods, scram and web, get on top of him fast and shut off his micro warp drive. Turns out he was real fit with some armour buffer. He doesn't appear to be hitting me that hard, so I delay on activating the repper and shut it off again after one cycle. An executioner joins the fight. I'm thinking, okay, this isn't going to be too good for me. The Tristan has me in half armour now and I reactivate my repper. I lock the executioner and set my drones on him to begin with while I finish with the Tristan. I'm determined to get at least one kill in this fight. Tristan goes down and I switch all DPS onto the executioner. He pops within 2 volleys of my lasers. That was awesome. My first 2v1, kind of. I checked the kill mail after, because by right I should really be dead, I thought. He had Tech 1 pulse lasers fitted, with dual heat sinks and a micro warp drive. Very little tank, but reasonable DPS there to kill me for sure. Mistakes were made, I think. That was fun. Another Tristan on D-scan. Again, unsure as to how he will be fit. If he's a kiting drone boat, he'll be sitting 15 to 20 kilometers off the warpin beacon, in which case I'll swap to Aurora crystals. If he's brawl fit, he'll be sitting next to or right at the warpin beacon. Time to find out. I take the gate into the Plex. As I land, I see his drones out and him sitting 2,000 meters away. I'm assuming he's not kite fit. I get ready for a brawl. I spam my keep at range command, which I've set at 8,000 meters, and lock him up. He locks me, and immediately I see he's a Neuting Tristan. This is a Tristan with 3 energy neutralizers in the high slots, which can swiftly drain your capacitor, leaving you dead in the water. I have about 15 seconds to manage this fight, otherwise I'm dead. There are 2 things you want to focus on when fighting a Neuting Tristan in this fit. 1. Pull range as soon as possible. Energy neutralizers have an optimal range of around 4 kilometers, after which their effect begins to fall off. 2. Manage your mods. Notice how I deactivate my scram and web, saving a small amount of cap. My opponent is committed to the fight and not thinking about running away. I only let my repper run for 1 cycle, saving a good bit more cap. My capacitor is practically empty by the time he pops. If I hadn't turned off those modules when I did, the outcome of this fight may have been different. The Tormentor suffers from poor capacitor charge, which makes it a good target for Neuting Tristans. I died to a good few before getting better at learning how to manage them. This next fight is a bonus fight I thought I'd tag on to the end of the video. It's against an Autocannon slasher flown by the talented and humble Blood Ruin. I've come up against Blood a few times now. I tend to end up in a pod, but he always brings a good fight. You'll find Blood occasionally streaming on Twitch, and he has made some very good PvP videos on his YouTube channel. They've been a source of inspiration for me as I learn to PvP better. Great pilot, knows his ships and how to fly them. So this fight is kinda special, as Blood was streaming at the time, and I have the recording of the fight from his point of view. It provides a rare opportunity for you to see the battle from both pilots' point of view. So, here's the fight from my viewpoint. The slasher will be faster than me, but not by a lot due to my overdrive module. Much like the dual web Kestrel fight, I want to begin at range, so he has to work at chasing me down, allowing the DPS of my beams to do their work. If he's allowed to get into a tight orbit early in the fight, I'm dead. He lands on grid. I make the mistake of hitting the approach command initially, but quickly rectify it. I have my Afterburner overheated. There is one major difference between how Blood is piloting here compared to the previous dual web Kestrel fight. Notice the way his ship is heading off at an angle. Blood's ship is not moving straight at me. He's coming at an angle. Manually piloting his ship by double clicking in space, he is keeping his transversal up, and that, coupled with his tracking disruptors on me, is causing my lasers to miss their target more often than not. Near the end of the fight, notice how he's catching more reps as he gets closer, and his transversal speed becomes greater. I die gloriously live on air, but not without putting up a good scrap. This fight is a great example of how to beat laser ships like my Tormentor. Let's look at it from his point of view. I'll just let the recording run with his own commentary.
I'm just gonna have to be careful on burn-in. Oh, dang it, I forgot. Well, we're doing it. I gotta be careful on burn-in against the Tormentor. If he's beam fit, he can really hurt me. So just gotta get in close, get in quick, and do how we do. Okay, he wants to fight here. Solomon. No! No, Solomon, no! I refuse your advances. Good sir. Shit. Solomon, you are going much fast. Knock it off. Shit, son. How is he going that fast? Like balls. Get about 2 cycles of my newt here. I've got to turn it off now. Whew! Damn, brah. That was rough. Whew. Much fast. Jeez, alright, so we're gonna take a look. Overdrive. Man, I figure I should have been able to close on him at the beginning there, but man, that was tough. See, with an overdrive, it's like 1300. I go only like 1400, and we're both overheating. That's tough for me to keep transversal going.
A great fight. It definitely got the heart pumping. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it somewhat useful. Please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for future videos in the series. Fly brave out there.